Welcome back, Shark Kings. In this video, we'll show you a secret method that will tell you if a game is good or not, using real data independent of both critic and user reviews. User scores and critic scores can be faked and swayed. The only thing we can trust is gamers who actually played the game. So before we get started, I want you to ask yourself, why am I playing the game that I'm playing right now? Whose opinion did I trust? We often rely on friends' recommendations, online reviews, and let's be honest, pretty cover art. It's so hard to know sometimes what games are worth playing. If you are a seasoned gamer with your ear to the ground, you're already privy to the latest and greatest. But to a lot of casual gamers, we just don't know what's actually good and what's just hype and marketing. We're often told that this game's good and this game's bad, and we generally take their word for it. This is especially true for smaller indie games. Many casual gamers have never even heard of any of these smaller titles, so they just assume that they're not as good as the AAA ones. But if your opinion is not easily swayed by hype marketing and shiny graphics, you'll know that it can't be farther from the truth. AAA games have been stagnant for quite a while, and smaller titles is where the innovation is happening. But it's still hard to tell the good from the bad. I mean, there are still a lot of really bad short indie games. Unfortunately, there's no easy way for us to just sort them from best to worst. I tried in my Every Good Game on Extra video, but that's entirely dependent on Metacritic ratings. And as we know, critics can't really be trusted all the time. Alien Isolation. Call of Duty. So in this video, we're going to look at a more objective way to gauge a game's quality and user engagement. We're going to be using real data. So what's the secret sauce, you ask? Well, the secret method has been right under your nose the whole time. We're going to be using achievement trophies and completion rates to figure out how gamers are interacting with that specific game. The premise is simple. If more people beat the game, then it's a good game. If more people give up on a game, then it's a bad game. That's the basic premise, but we're going to dive way deeper into the charts and numbers. We'll be comparing games from a similar genre and even games from the same IP. When this video is done, you'll have a few tools under your belt to analyze the game you're thinking of downloading. I'll even throw my personal recommendations at the end. But again, you shouldn't trust online reviewers, especially when they tell you to subscribe before giving you the meat of the pie. So let's get started with the one method that's been right under your nose. Often ignored, you've had access to this the whole time. And you don't even need the internet. You could do this right from your console. Trophies. Trophies can be a surprisingly good indicator of a game's size, engagement, and quality. First, we have the number of trophies. Generally speaking, the more trophies a game has, the longer the game is going to be. A huge open world game is going to have way more trophies than a smaller indie title. Although that's great for telling us how big a game is, it doesn't say anything about its quality. The gold mine here are those tiny little percentage rates. These percentages reveal completion rates. These are split up into platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And every trophy can tell us a little about the game. The first and easiest to look at is the ultimate trophy, the platinum trophy. It's easiest to look at because it's at the top. I personally use a very unscientific method. If the platinum trophy is more than 1%, there might be something there. The percentage rate of the platinum trophy is the ultimate test of whether it's worth spending extra time in that game. If a higher percentage of gamers have actually gotten the platinum, it speaks volumes on the game's overall quality and replayability. Gamers beat the game and chose to come back because they hadn't had enough, so they wanted to see everything the game had to offer. These platinums often require a second playthrough sometimes. It's so nice, you gotta hear the same song twice. I don't know what's a better compliment for a game. So back to the numbers. The majority of games, you're going to see around a 0.1% completion rates for the Platinum Trophy. Now, a lot of shorter games are going to have a much higher percentage in here because it's so much easier to spend an extra hour to get a Platinum on a short game versus to spend an extra 50 hours trying to get a Platinum on a very long game. So if you see a higher percentage on a very short game, chances are the activities were pretty easy for the cleanup. But I think it still says a lot about whether a game was worth it or not. Regardless of the time spent, it's such a better feeling to leave a game thinking, I want more, than to uninstall a game and thinking, oh, glad that's over with. Which is, I think, part of the reason why shorter indie titles get such a higher rating. To respect our time is such a novel idea when it comes to AAA titles. So with all that said, if you see a very long game that has a high platinum percentage rate, you've got a gem on your hand. Short or long, people can't get enough of this game. Probably has its own subreddit. The gold trophy trophies are typically awarded for completing the game's story. This can tell you a lot. A high completion rate for a gold trophy means a higher percentage of gamers actually finish the story, which suggests an engaging campaign that kept the players interested and invested. On the other hand, a very low percentage on the gold trophy might indicate either a difficult or just a less captivating story. People lost interest and abandoned the game before even finishing the story. Think about how bad a movie has to be for you to walk out of the theater. It's the ultimate insult. Going out to the movies costs as much as a couple of months of Netflix, or in our case, PS Plus Extra. So to spend that much money on just a couple of hours and then walk out halfway, that's a big statement. But this behavior is way more common in video games. And it's understandable because games are so much longer. So if a lot of gamers invested that many hours to just watch the end of the story, there's got to be a gem there. I mean, that's a huge time investment, which is where we start to see the rift between long and short games. Shorter games are going to have a much higher completion rates when it comes to finishing the story, because for a lot of short games, they're as long as a movie. It's not a huge investment. On the flip side, if a short game story isn't completed by the majority of players, then you might have a bad short game. Again, not all gold trophies are about finishing the story, but a large percentage of them are. Now, silver and bronze trophies are all over the place sometimes. Most of the time, bronze trophies are given for completing chapters of the game, which gives us further insight to the completion rates from the gold trophies. Let's use Lost Judgment as an example. So we can see that 34.5% of players earned the gold trophy for beating the main campaign of the game. But if you go up a bit, 40% of players made it to chapter 8, and 43% made it to chapter 4. It's really funny analyzing these percentages. You start to think, what happened to that 2% that beat chapter 12 but didn't beat the game? You got so close. What happened? You can try this right now. Go to a game that you're playing right now and check out what percentage of players dropped off right before finishing the main campaign. It's very typical to see a huge drop off from chapter 1 to chapter 2, but I feel really bad for those that committed until the second last chapter and then just gave up. Like, no, buddy, you were so close. Low percentages for finishing just chapter 1 might indicate buyer's remorse. Or for non-chapter side content trophies, repetitive or uninspired side content. It's important to keep in mind that if the game is brand new to PS Plus Extra, that means that these percentage rates are from the people who actually bought the game with their own money. So high and especially low percentage rates for completing things are a great indicator whether a game is worth it or not. Of course, this trophy method isn't foolproof. Some games may have trophy lists that are skewed toward easier tasks, while other games have infamously difficult trophies that may deter completionists. However, just by analyzing the trophy percentages, you can quickly assess a game's length, player enjoyment, and potential for a truly immersive playthrough. So the next time you're contemplating playing a new game, don't underestimate the power in the information that's in the little trophy icons and the tiny little percentages beside them. But you do have to download the game first in order to see all the trophies, so it does have its drawback.
Additionally, for some truly insightful fun, you can compare your trophies with your friends, which is a hilarious way to snoop on your friends and see what they're playing. Why were you playing that anime game at 3 a.m., Jeff? Oh, I see you only like sports game. Okay. You woohooed with who in The Sims? That's a discussion for a whole other video, but the lesson is don't disregard the trophy list. It is full of great and sometimes hilarious information.
While browsing trophies might be fun and insightful, it might take too long to browse all the trophies, and you might risk running into a spoiler. PlayStation's generally pretty good about avoiding spoilers in the trophies, so sometimes you can't even see any trophies or their percentages because they're hidden behind that hidden feature, which is great for avoiding spoilers, but really annoying for checking completion rates. How much percentage completion of a game a gamer did is a way more telling data point than just a user review. How much time did you spend in this game? How much of this game did you beat? When did you decide to give up on the game? Did you come back to get all the collectibles for the platinum? Or did you not even finish the main story? I realize that the platinum is impossible for a lot of great games. Whether it's an impossible multiplayer trophy you're expected to get, and the servers just happen to be shut down by now, or a crazy grind trophy, like get 10,000 or 100,000 of this or that. Don't get me wrong, sometimes games are great even if they're not often platinumed, but even in those cases, maybe there was just 1 or 2 trophies that were impossible to get, which tells us that the gamers really love this experience, which is what it's all about. What's another great game that has an impossible trophy that keeps its gamers from being in the 100th percentile? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and as always, until next time, be a friend and I'll see you again.